this is the third video in the playlist where we're looking at the June 2018 Edexcel Higher Paper 3. Okay, in the previous video we finished at question number 13, so we're going to be starting from question number 14. Please do stop the video, have a go at each of the questions for yourself and then compare your solutions. I'm going to aim for about 25-30 minutes or so, and that should give you about an hour's worth of focused revision. Okay, so let's have a look then at question number 14, and it's one of the new topics for the new GCSE. It's called counting strategies. 16 hockey teams in a league. Each team played 2 matches against each of the other teams. Work out the total number of matches played. Okay, I thought about this long and hard, how to kind of put this together. If we think about it fairly logically, each team is going to play 2 matches against each of the other teams. Okay, so it's 2 matches and they're going to play themselves against one of the other teams. Okay, so in other words, they're going to play in total 480 matches altogether. Okay, hopefully that's all right for you. We're saying they're going to play themselves and they're going to play against one of the other teams and they're going to do it twice. Okay, so on the surface that seems okay, but you've actually got to appreciate, I guess, that half of them are duplicated. Now the reason they are duplicated is because if team A plays B, it's the same as B times A. Okay, all right, so actually we've got to halve it again. So our end result of 480 means that if they're going to play the other 2 teams, the other 2 matches against each of the teams, it's going to be half of the total that we've got. So it will be 240 matches in total. All right, bit tricky. I think this particular paper, also with the previous question on similar shapes, which is question number 13, it's just a little bit difficult to kind of work through, but hopefully you'll be okay with question number 15, which looks at the speed of a car during the first 20 seconds of a journey. So with this particular one, we're being asked to work out an estimate for the distance the car travelled in the first 20 seconds using 4 strips of equal width. All right, well really all they're doing is saying, actually, if you divide each of these into 4 and just work out the area using either a triangle, which is going to be the first one, and then the trapezium formula for the final 3. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of work this through on the video, but hopefully you'll be able to follow me. That I've got these 4 areas. I'm going to say this is area A, B, C and D. Okay, and hopefully you'll be able to follow this through. That A is going to be equal to a half base times height, and again you might have base times height over 2 is perfectly fine, not a problem at all. Okay, so I've got a half. Now the base value is going to be 5 and the height value from the actual chart itself is going to be 22, so it's going to be 5 times 22. Pop that in your calculator or work it out as mental arithmetic, you should get 55. Okay, and then I'm going to look at B. Now this time I'm going to use the trapezium formula, which is a half A plus B times H. Okay, so again, what you need to do perhaps is just go back to the chart itself, and if you turn the chart on its side, hopefully you'll be able to see that this is a trapezium. Okay, so this value along here is going to be A, this value along here is going to be B, and then the difference between the 2 is going to be H, and we need to apply that for B, C and D, and that will allow us then to work out the areas of each of the trapeziums. Okay, so with B I've got a half Okay, and I've got 22 plus 28, and I'm going to multiply that by height of 5. That gives me 125. Okay, you might get slightly different numbers to me. That's perfectly fine, it's not a problem. It's just a case of the interpretation, and they will also allow you quite a bit of leeway with these sorts of things, providing you show you're working. It's so important with all of these to show you're working in a way that kind of makes sense to the examiner. Okay, so I've got A, B and C there, and then D I'm going to do up here, and that's going to be a half A plus B times H. Okay, now I write out these formulas every single time I do a calculation, okay, because it just also helps me to remember them. So when you're doing a lot of your revision, if you write out the formulas constantly, you're hopefully never going to forget them. Okay, so if I add up this and then the value of A, B and C, I'm going to get a total distance that the car travelled of 497.5, okay, which is close enough to 498 meters, okay, and that would be the answer to this particular question. Okay, and then part B, it says, is your answer to part A an underestimate or an overestimate the actual distance that the car travelled in those 20 seconds? Well, actually, it's an underestimate, because if you go back to the actual diagram itself, you can see that, particularly with the triangle, there's a whole area there that I've not calculated just because I've used a straight line. So it's an underestimate, okay. In my particular case, it's an underestimate. Okay, and it's I can put something like as the straight lines are below curves. And then I could, if I wanted to, I could write something like see the diagram. Okay, hopefully that's all right for you. Let's move on then to question number 16. Okay, question number 16, we're going to be looking at a quadratic sequence. Okay, so quadratic sequences are it can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but well, we'll see how we get on with this. So it says the nth term of a sequence is given by that, okay, and the second term is -2 and the fourth term is 12. Find the sixth term. All right. Okay, well, in order to do that, what we need to do really is find out the values of A and B. Okay, so the way I would do that is to say if the second term is going to be equal to -2, then I can write A n squared plus bn equals -2. Okay, so the second term is -2, and then I can substitute this in. Okay, so I can say the second term, which is this one here, is going to be A, and then I've got 2 squared plus B times 2 equals -2. Okay, and what I'm going to end up with is actually two simultaneous equations, and the first simultaneous equation will be 2 squared, which is 4 times A is 4A plus 2B equals -2. So actually that's my first one using the second term. All right, so let's do exactly the same now with the fourth term. Okay, so with the fourth term, again, I'm going to say that an squared plus bn equals 12. All right, so we know it's the fourth term, so I can plug that straight in, and I'm going to get A 4 squared plus b times 4 equals 12. So work that out. 4 squared is 16, so 16a plus 4b equals 12. So now I've got two equations that I can put together and then by elimination work out the value of either A or B. Okay, so if you can see here that I've got 4a plus 2b equals -2 and 16a plus 4b equals 12. So I'm going to put that slightly differently. I'm going to put this at the top and I'm going to say beg your pardon, start that again. 16a plus 4b equals 12. Okay. Now this one here, I'm going to multiply by 2. Now the reason I'm going to multiply it by 2 is because this then becomes 4b. And if that becomes 4b, it means I can subtract it away from this equation and get rid of the b terms. Okay, so if I just put a little note and now I'm going to multiply that by 2, and I'm going to put that over here, and that's going to be then 8a plus 4b equals minus 4. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract one away from the other, because if I do that, I've got 4b minus 4b. Well, that's 0. Well, that's great, because I don't want b. I'm just going to deal with a. Okay, so 16a minus 8a is 8a. 4b minus 4b has gone. And then I've got 12. Now, be careful, minus 4. Well, where you've got two minuses together, it becomes a positive. So actually, that becomes 12 plus 4, which is going to be 16. Okay, so if I divide through by 8, I then get a equals 2. Okay, so what it's telling me now is that this value of a in the nth term sequence is actually going to be, and I'll just put a marker there to say it's actually going to be 2, positive 2. Okay. So let's have a look then at how do we find out b. Well, we can just use substitution. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one of the equations I've used, providing they've got a and b in them. I just decided I would use, this one here. Might as well go back to the first one, doesn't really matter. But I'm going to say 4a plus 2b equals minus 2. Okay, well, the value of a is 2. We know that, so we can say 4 times 2 plus 2b equals minus 2, which is 8, plus 2b equals minus 2. I'm going to minus 8 from both sides, and I'm going to end up with 2b equals minus 10, okay, which therefore means that b must equal minus 5 if I divide through both sides by 2. Okay, so now I've got my two values where a equals 2 and b equals minus 5. All right, so we're being asked actually to find the sixth term of the sequence, and I've put that onto the I've put that onto the answer bit there, but hopefully at least you'll have got that far with it. So let's go back to our particular equation, and I've got an squared plus bn, and we said that a is 2 and b is minus 5. So to find the sixth term, I've now got my actual formula, which is 2n squared minus 5n. Okay, the sixth term is where n equals 6 rather. So 2 times 6 squared minus 5 times 6. Okay, pop that in a calculator, I'll work out as mental arithmetic. I've got 6 squared is 36, and 36 times 2 is going to be 72, minus 5 times 6 is 30. Okay, and 72 minus 30 means that the sixth term would equal 40. Okay, hope that's all right for you and you've been able to follow through the reasoning on that. Okay, so part B of the question is that here are the first 5 terms of a different quadratic sequence. So if it's different, I'm just going to kind of just move the sheet of paper up a little bit so you can see the whole question. Okay, so find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. Well, we've got a couple of things going on here. Now, again, there is a playlist on the channel. If you want to have a look at that playlist, it'll give you some idea of how I particularly do these sorts of things. Because really what we're doing is it's a quadratic sequence, so it's going to be in the form an squared plus bn plus c. Okay, and our job really is to find the value of a, the value of b, and the value of c. Okay, so if we look at this sequence, I've got 0, 2, 6, 12, 20. The first difference in this particular case is going to be that, okay, which means the second difference is going to be that. Okay, now what I do now is I circle each of the first three terms, okay, because what that tells me is that this term here is 2a, okay. Well, if 2a equals 2, then a must equal 1, okay. The next one, which is also 2 in this particular case, equals 3a plus b. Now, there are reasons as to why this happens. This is a bit of a shortcut. I know that some teachers will do it slightly differently, but this kind of works for me. If you have a look at the playlist on the channel, you'll be able to have a look at why this all works together. Okay, but I know the value of a, so I can say 3a plus b equals 2. Okay, so that means 3 times 1 plus b equals 2. Okay, so therefore 3 plus b equals 2. So if I minus 3 from both sides, I get b equals minus 1. Okay, so I'm in a position now where I can say that a is 1 and b is minus 1. So the only one I've got to do now is going to be c. Okay, well, c is this one at the top by saying a plus b plus c equals 0. Okay, so you've got to remember these three little formulas. The first one is 2a, the second one is 3a plus b, and the third one is a plus b plus c. It's a bit like a lot of this maths, as we've got to kind of remember these formulas, okay, but it is, in my mind at least, the easiest way for me to cope with it, but I know that there are different methods, okay? So I'm going to say a plus b plus c equals 0, which is my final formula I'm going to use. Well, I know the value of a is 1, I know the value of b is minus 1, c is 0, so therefore 1 minus 1 is 0, 0 plus c is 0, so c must equal 0. So this last one here is 0. Okay, so when I put all that together, what I really get is 1n squared minus 1n plus 0. Well, we don't really write things like that. Firstly, we don't really plus 0, and also we don't really write 1n squared and minus 1n. We would just simply write that as n squared minus n, and that would be the nth term for this particular quadratic sequence. Okay, a little bit tricky on that one. So I think what we'll do is we'll stop the video at this point. It does take a little bit of time to kind of work through these sorts of questions. So we'll pick it up in the next video, which will be video number 3. Okay, and that's going to start from question number 17 onwards. We're at about 20 minutes, so it's quite a short video, but there's been a lot of ground that we've covered. Please do have a look at the playlist, add a comment below if you're not sure of anything. I look forward to seeing you inside the next video.